Have you ever looked up at the night sky and felt a sense of timelessness? The stars, the moon, the familiar constellations. They seem eternal, unchanging. But what if I told you that across the globe, scattered through the records of our most ancient civilizations, there are whispers of a day when all of that changed? A day the earth stood still, from the sun-scorched deserts of ancient Egypt to the lush jungles of Mesoamerica, from the mystical texts of India to the oral traditions of Native American tribes. We find eerily similar stories. They speak of a time of chaos, of a long night that stretched on for days, of suns that rose in the wrong direction, and of stars that fell from their fixed positions in the heavens. Could these be mere coincidences, or are they the fragmented memories of a single, catastrophic global event that has been almost entirely erased from history? Let's start in the Americas. The sacred texts of the Maya, like the Popol Vuh, describe a world plunged into darkness and turmoil before the current creation. They speak of a time when the sky fell and the previous sun was destroyed. Similarly, the Hopi people of Arizona have traditions about multiple worlds, or epics, each ending in a cataclysm. One of these destructions involved the world spinning out of control and freezing over. The Aztec legends also tell of the legend of the Five Suns, where 4 previous worlds were destroyed by cosmic events, including a great darkness that blotted out the sun. Now, let's travel across the Pacific. In ancient China, texts like the Wananzi speak of a time when the pillars supporting the sky collapsed. The text describes the earth tilting, causing rivers to flood, and the sun, moon, and stars to shift their courses. Does that sound familiar? It's a recurring theme. The Chinese accounts even mention that after this event, the sun began to rise in the east and set in the west, implying that perhaps before this catastrophe, things were different. But how could such an event happen? The idea of the Earth literally stopping its rotation seems impossible. The momentum would send everything on the surface flying into space. Oceans would create tsunamis thousands of feet high, scouring the continents clean. It would be an extinction-level event, beyond imagination. So, if it wasn't a complete stop, what could it have been? One fascinating theory, proposed by some independent research, involves a concept known as crustal displacement. Imagine the Earth's entire outer crust, the lithosphere, sliding over the molten mantle beneath it, like the skin of an orange slipping over the fruit. The planet's core and mantle would continue to spin, but the surface itself would shift dramatically. If this were to happen, continents could move thousands of miles in a very short time. A region at the equator could suddenly find itself at the North Pole. From the perspective of someone on the ground, it would look as if the sky was falling and the stars were racing across the heavens. The sun would appear to stop in its path, or even change its direction. This would explain the long nights, the sun rising in the wrong place, and the cataclysmic floods and earthquakes described in ancient texts. Let's look at the evidence. We have the phenomenon of flash-frozen megafauna, like the mammoths found in Siberia. Some of these animals were discovered with undigested food still in their stomachs and mouths, suggesting an incredibly sudden and extreme drop in temperature. Could a rapid shift of the crust have moved Siberia from a more temperate climate to the Arctic Circle almost instantaneously? It's a provocative thought. And what about the alignment of ancient structures? Many megalithic sites, like Stonehenge and the pyramids of Giza, are aligned with incredible precision to celestial events, the solstices, the equinoxes, and specific stars. But some researchers point out anomalies, alignments that seem slightly off or point to constellations, as they would have appeared from a different geographic location. Could these structures have been built before a crustal shift, aligned perfectly to a sky that no longer exists? Consider the story from the Greek historian Herodotus. He recounts a journey to Egypt, where priests showed him temple records, describing a period in their distant past when the sun had risen twice in the west and set twice in the. The priests were adamant this was historical fact, not myth. This mirrors Plato's account in his dialogue, The Statesman, where he describes an age when the universe's rotation was reversed by the Creator, causing cosmic upheaval. Even the Bible contains passages that are tantalizingly similar. In the book of Joshua, we read about a battle where Joshua asks God to make the sun stand still in the sky, and the sun stood still, and the moon stayed, until the nation had avenged themselves on their enemies. The sun stood still in the midst of heaven and did not hasten to go down for about a whole day. For centuries, this has been interpreted as a local miracle. But what if it was the local description of a global phenomenon, a day when the Earth's movement was altered? Of course, mainstream geology and physics tell us that such a rapid crustal displacement is highly improbable, if not impossible. The forces required would be immense, and the geological evidence for such a recent, massive slide is not widely accepted. Skeptics argue that these ancient stories are simply allegorical myths, explaining the changing of seasons, local floods, or the creation of the world. They believe that attributing them to a single physical event is a stretch, a case of connecting unrelated dots. They argue that cultures worldwide developed similar chaos myths, because humans everywhere grapple with the same fundamental fears: the dark, natural disasters, and the unpredictable nature of life. A great flood story, for example, is common because most early civilizations lived near large bodies of water prone to flooding. It's a shared human experience, not a shared historical memory. But the sheer consistency and specificity of these accounts are hard to dismiss entirely. They don't just speak of a big flood or a big earthquake. They speak of something far more specific, a fundamental change in the mechanics of the sky and the earth, a long darkness, a sun that changes its path, stars that fall. These are not typical meteorological or geological events. So, are we looking at the world's oldest and most profound forgotten event, a cataclysm that forced humanity to essentially hit the reset button, leaving behind only fragmented, mythologized memories? Or are these just powerful stories created by our ancestors to make sense of a chaotic and often terrifying world? Perhaps the truth lies somewhere in between, maybe a series of major but separate events: a massive volcanic eruption causing a volcanic winter, a large asteroid impact that tilted the Earth's axis slightly, or a severe solar storm were woven together over millennia into a singular, epic myth of the day the world changed forever. What is certain is that these stories from our ancestors are a powerful reminder. They show us that civilizations can rise and fall, and that the world we perceive as stable and permanent might be more fragile than we think. Whether it was a crustal shift, an asteroid, or simply the power of myth, the idea that the entire sky once changed forever is a humbling one. It encourages us to look at the ancient world not as a primitive and simple time, but as a complex era inhabited by people who witnessed things we can barely comprehend. Thank you so much for joining me on this journey into our planet's mysterious past. What do you think? Are these ancient tales the echoes of a real global disaster, or simply the powerful products of human imagination? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this exploration, please hit that like button and subscribe for more deep dives into the forgotten corners of history. See you next time.